Hey guys, just a quick update while things are still unfolding here, and I found what I think is a useful article to come across. Many of you might have already seen it. It's from the actual lawsuit itself, and let me just start by reading it first here. Alright, so here we have the introduction to the lawsuit. And I'm just going to read it to you. You can see it on the screen right now, and I've shared a copy of this image on my YouTube channel if you want to download it yourself. This action arises from defendants' systematic and ongoing infringement of plaintiffs' valuable intellectual property rights in the iconic EverQuest franchise. Defendants have created, operated, and promoted an unauthorized EverQuest emulator called The Hero's Journey that brazenly copies Daybreak's copyrighted game content, circumvents Daybreak's technological protection measures, dilutes Daybreak's famous EverQuest mark, and generates revenue through a thinly disguised donation system. THJ requires users to download and modify Daybreak's legitimate EverQuest client software, then redirects players to defendants' unauthorized servers where players can access substantially identical copies of Daybreak's copyrighted characters, environments, storylines, and game mechanics. Defendants aggressively have promoted THJ across social media platforms, gaming forums, and video channels, consistently marketing THJ as an enhanced EverQuest experience to attract players away from Daybreak's legitimate EverQuest service. This ongoing infringement already has caused substantial irreparable harm to Daybreak through loss of control over its intellectual property, dilution of its valuable EverQuest mark, siphoning of legitimate EverQuest players, and lost revenue. Plaintiff seeks emergency injunctive relief to immediately halt defendants' infringing activities, as well as permanent injunctive relief, monetary damages, and other appropriate remedies because defendants' threatens the integrity and sustainability of Daybreak's core business and valuable intellectual property rights, and monetary damages alone cannot remedy the ongoing erosion of Daybreak's market position and trademark rights. So there we have it. At first I was a little hopeful, and then as I continued, I kind of find myself back where I started. I got hopeful at first because it seemed to lead up to like crescendo at the thinly disguised donation system. That gives me hope, because if that's the real heart of the matter, I've been trying to get down to the heart of the matter, but my will gets weak. Alright, if that's really the heart of the matter, hopefully it is, Quarm is not running parallel to THJ in that respect. So maybe we'll be alright. But after mentioning the thinly disguised donation system, it continues to talk about unauthorized servers accessing identical copies of Daybreak's copyrighted characters, environments, storylines, game mechanics, etc. And it requires downloading of the client and changing it and blah blah blah. So, and then it mentions the other issue that I thought might be the reason that THJ is taking player base. Let's see, siphoning of legitimate EverQuest players. So that concern is also mentioned, which results in lost revenue. And that is something that I guess you could say Quarm, I would almost argue Quarm is even more responsible for. Because I think Quarm is so good that, I mean, some people, yeah, a good deal of people did leave Quarm to go to the TLP, so maybe not. Because, that's the question. Like, are people not going to play the TLP who otherwise would because they're playing on this server? I'd say, I think Quarm is a little more side-by-side friendly than THJ in regards to playing on a TLP. And the reason I say that is because THJ is such a whole different experience of EverQuest that someone who's getting addicted to like the multi-class thing, they might lose their taste for the single-class character thing. And if they're getting addicted to being able to do all this stuff by themselves, they're not as interested in the launch experience. But maybe they still are. This is not like an absolute statement. Only a Sith would deal in absolutes. No, my friends. I am not dealing in absolutes here. I understand that it's a spectrum, and we are all on this spectrum somewhere. So, that being said, though, I feel like Quarm is similar enough to where people who are playing Quarm, they like the launch experience, and I think they might not stay on the TLP as long. That might be a thing, but they will play on the TLP, I think. And I noticed that in my experience, a lot of people went to jump onto Fangbreaker, even though Fangbreaker just it looked like it looked like it could have been done a lot better right from the get-go. And still, some of my friends went to play it. So also, a lot of my friends they're fully involved in EverQuest's, on like Freerion Vi, and they're still subscribed to Daybreak. So the thing about Quarm is that it's got so long between expansions that there's no rush. So you can juggle both and enjoy it very much actually. And THJ is the same. So let's I don't know. Just sharing my thoughts here, you guys. But here we have a more clear thing here. Somebody commented on my last video, like, who said anything about THG being sued? And like, where's your comprehension, bro? And it's like, well, dude, please, here's my message to you, bro. If you have a piece of the puzzle that I don't have, how about instead of being a dick, how about you contribute that piece of the puzzle that I missed? How about that? But it appears to me that the hero's journey is being sued. But please, if you know more than I do, come and fill me in. Luckily, Quarm is not being sued. They haven't been targeted. Apparently, Secrets is currently talking to them right now. So let me surf Discord, see if we can find any relative comments real quick. Okay, this is relevant. I'm pretty sure almost all of you have already seen it, but since I'm making a video, I might as well cover it, all right? As of yesterday at 10:35 p.m. for me, which is, I think, like 7:35 a.m. for Pacific Standard Time, Secrets said in the announcement, "We have been made aware of the lawsuit filed against another emulator server. For those who are worried, our stance is that if we were to receive a lawful order to shut down, we would immediately comply. At this time, we have not received any communications from Daybreak Game Company to do so. Project Quarm, like P99, is a not-for-profit, fan-run, fan-operated emulated server that respects the intellectual property of Daybreak Game Company, blah, 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 blah. It's fully open source, and it prides itself on not charging a single dime and operating within the legal framework that Project 99 operates under." Legal framework being a gray area term in this case, because the legal framework is quite questionable for Project 99, but hey, it's worked for a while, right? Which includes not selling items in return for real-life money. That's one of the key differences where we are distinguished from THJ. Also, THJ pulled a much larger number of players right around the time of the TLP, so I don't know. So that preceded. The server is offline. While I cannot provide an update right now, I have initiated discussions behind the scenes. So this message was preceded by the server coming back online not too long after it shut down, and then I think it got shut down again. And I don't know what caused that. I don't know if Daybreak was like, "What are you doing back up?" If they were watching, or if Secrets just had a second thought and decided I should shut down until I talked to them actually, and decided to take the server back down. Maybe she consulted with somebody who has legal experience, or somebody whose opinion she trusts, or a lawyer, and they said, actually, yes, you should keep the server down until you reach an agreement. And that's about all we've got so far, my friends. That's all we've got. In other news, ironically, the very server that is targeted is still up and running. They simply lawyered up and they continued doing their thing. Which, I mean, if you're already under fire, what have you got to lose? Ride it out until it goes down. Of course, any further money that they might make, I'm assuming anybody even, I think most people who are aware of the situation probably started paying real money for those echoes of memory or whatever they were. They're the currency you could buy with real money to use in the game. I'm pretty sure most people would stop participating in that if they're aware of this lawsuit, but maybe not. But any money that they make from the past, as well as continuing up to the point where the legal hammer finally falls on them, will probably have to go to Daybreak anyway. So I think they're just like, well, we can't benefit from shutting down at this point, so let's just leave it up. But I don't know. I'm just speculating here. But while we're reading, Discord messages. Let's see the announcement that happened on THJ. Good afternoon, heroes. Many folks have become aware that Daybreak has filed a suit against 2 of our founders. Please know that while we cannot comment on any specifics, we want you all to know that we are doing everything in our power to see this through to a positive outcome for our community and all involved parties. We have excellent counsel. The benefit of the facts on our side. I don't know how that is, but and an abiding faith that reasonable people will see us as fans, not as foes. Well, let me just say, like, the fact that you're fans and you're not foes, that's of EverQuest, that's wonderful, but you are using copyrighted material. And that's where you could just, period. You are using copyrighted material, period. If the owners of said copyright material ask you not to use it for any reason whatsoever, as far as my naive mind is aware, I don't see how the facts are on your side. However you spin it, but who knows? You know, lawyers are amazing, and who knows what little loopholes there are in the law. But seems to me, if you're using the copyrighted material, you don't really have much of a case, you know, no matter what. On top of that, you've been making money on that material. That's a big no-no. But again, I like to say my naive and uninformed understanding, just my sense of things as a 38-year-old adult male, is that whether or not you're making money, they can shut you down simply for using their copyrighted material. Interestingly enough, they experienced some downtime the following morning. The downtime was a byproduct of a legitimate issue that we have already identified and applied a fix. Our apologies for the poor timing, it cannot be helped. So they actually had a random crash on the server. It just so happens a couple hours after all of this came out. Interesting. You know, maybe it's somebody who got angry and hacked at them, or maybe it was really just a bug that happened to surface at this time, coincidentally. So there you have it, guys. Just a quick update on, you know, giving a little bit of more clear information, reading that, the introduction to the lawsuit. You know, not really any news, but just some more clarity and a little more view of the Discord stuff going on. And I hope you guys are having fun. What are your thoughts? Please share with me in the comments. What are you going to do if you continue to game? If I continue to game, I was flirting with the idea of, I heard that there's a Vanguard emulated server. You know, that game that they made after EverQuest. I was really excited to play it at the time, but I didn't play it, and then it died so quickly. But I've heard bad and good things, so, but I'd love to try it. There was a class in there. It was like telekinetic mage of some sort, and I thought that sounded so cool. So maybe me and the boys, maybe we'll check that out. I also thought maybe we should try that Star Wars MMORPG, Star Wars Galaxies, that Sony made in 2003. And I tried it back in the day, but my connection was so jittery that I ended up just stopping. I didn't play it anymore, but it felt very EverQuest. You turn on auto attack, you know. So that could be something interesting to check out, you know, something to consider. But what else could there be? I've heard a ton about Ashen's Call, but I don't know if I want to start a whole new MMORPG like that. I was thinking if, you know, yeah, we don't like live servers, blah, 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 but I had fun when I first came back to EverQuest. I started a couple characters on the live server. I had a monk. You know, you got to have the mercs and whatnot, but if you got some buddies from Quarm, if it's just a group, why not? If there's no other real option, I mean, there's P99, but go over to live. And yeah, you're a bit overpowered, but you can find monsters at a higher difficulty to balance out the power issue, and you could have a lot of fun with a group of friends, roaming the world on Furiona Vi or some other live server. You don't even have to pay, right? Technically. I'm considering that. Me and the boys are chatting in Discord about what we might or might not do. There's always Turtle WoW. Tried that for a hot minute, but just it was fun. But whenever I sit down, I'm like, EverQuest, baby, Project Quarm, baby. So it really crushes my heart. But you know, at the same time, I'm all right. I hit 60. It was wonderful. I was gonna start doing some interesting stuff. Maybe I'll go back to P99. I've got an enchanter that's like 40, 45 over there. Maybe push her up to 60 and do that interesting stuff that I wanted to do over there. I don't know. Anyway, hopes all it's well. Catch you guys later. Peace.